do it.
Hey, everybody. Bill Faith here from Build STR Wealth and my man, Kenny Bedwell from STR Insights. How are you today, Kenny?
Good. I feel like we're doing a podcast episode.
Exactly. It does.
Yeah.
In the top right-hand corner, that's not good when we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. It looks like nothing's streaming.
Oh, really?
Right now.
Nothing at all?
I've never seen this before.
Oh, I can stream it. I'm going to stream it to my audiences.
What the heck? View on Facebook. Let's see if this works. We might be having some technical issues.
Let's do it to that.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know that I'm streaming, buddy.
That stinks.
Streaming to YouTube. That's the only one that appears to be working.
Is there anyone
on? One person on YouTube. Hey, one person who's here watching the trading. I don't know why it's not working. It's all connected. This is really weird. Are you streaming?
Not yet. I'm typing a description now because it's making me do that. Minds each destination. Save changes. Boom. Mine's streaming.
Wow, this is really weird. I mean, it says it could have an issue on Facebook side. I don't know what else to do besides like literally reconnect everything and restart it. But sorry, everybody that's here. We're having some technical difficulties right now, trying to get this squared away. Hi, Corey. Hi, Mike.
So
I see yours are streaming fine. Mine are not. I see your check boxes.
Yeah. It's true. I'm trying to see. Oh, man. I'm streaming to the wrong. Oh. Yeah, I'm streaming the wrong one. 1 second.
We'll jump out for a second.
Well, everybody, it looks like it's just me, and I'm going to teach you how to hire and source and manage awesome STR super VAs. So if Bill ever comes back, he'll jump into the questions, but it's mainly just going to be me. So if there's anyone watching or listening left after I said that, then that's fine. Anyway, we'll see if he there he comes back. Okay.
Yeah, I've got the IT stuff on the way. Chris is going to jump in and see if he can figure out what's going on. So your 3 are streaming. My 5.
It'll only let me do 2, by the way, but it's all good.
Oh yeah, you got 2, and then my YouTube is streaming. None of our Facebook groups. I had STR Data Host, had Host Academy, had my group, all that type of stuff. It's just not working. So let's get started, and then we'll probably have to redo this, unfortunately.
Yeah, all good. All good. It's okay. People can hear it.
Hopefully Chris will jump in and save the day. So those of the 10 of you that are here, you're going to get a very intimate, rendition of this. I wonder if you could log into your... No, you can't share from a group. I'm just trying to think of how we can get it into the Build STR Wealth group, but kind of sucks.
I wonder if there's anybody like commenting on it in the group. Anyway. All good. Let's see. Is there I was going to see if there's yeah, I don't even
Chris.
see
We're up to 16 people. We should have a couple of 200-300 on here right now. Let's just get started. Let's talk about VAs today, Kenny. So okay. Today's free training is about sourcing, hiring, training, managing super virtual assistants. What does that mean?
Super virtual assistants. So super are people who are skilled assassins in their specific job. So
you're talking Antonio Banderas is like Zorro, skilled assassin, right?
There we go. Right. So basically not a VA who can just, I can manage your, gas communication. I'll, change your prices for you. I'll do your social media posts. I'll do all this other stuff for you. Those aren't super VAs. Those are just regular VAs. Anybody can do that. We want to find and identify VAs who are skilled and have experience doing one specific skill set, meaning they are the experts at pricing management or optimization, or social media posts and creating templates and things like that to boost your property social media performance, or competitor analysis and research, and have that experience. So that to me makes up a super VA. And those super VAs are, because they're well skilled, they can complement your ability that you might be lacking in. So for example, I am terrible at posting on social media, and I have VAs who can do that for me, and they're better at it than me, like creating templates and designs and pictures and putting them in a way that I could never do that myself. So a super VA is somebody who not only has that skill, they're an expert in it, and it complements my skills and abilities that I'm good at.
So to kind of elaborate what Kenny's talking about, I believe that we all have our genius zone, and we should only be focusing our efforts inside of that genius zone. So for me, I am very skilled marketer, very skilled salesperson, very skilled at seeing the canvas and kind of designing super properties. I stay inside of that zone. Everything else I want to give to somebody else to do for me, right? So I've trained Chris, as an example, over 6 years, how to do absolutely everything that either that I'm not good at or that I just don't like doing. And now he does that as my COO. Unfortunately, hiring Chris's in our real estate portfolios just doesn't work financially for us. That's where the virtual assistants come in. Virtual assistants, as Kenny was alluding to, I think it's super important to understand here that when most of us go to onlinejobs.ph, Upwork, wherever we're looking for virtual assistants, usually we're trying to cram at least 2, 3, possibly even 4 skill sets into one VA. As Kenny alluded to, that typically does not work out very well. It's one of the reasons that it is super important to hire by skill. And when you hire by skill, if you want somebody to be an expert in pricing strategy, you need to have somebody that really that's their core focus, and they've been trained in that specific skill. And we should not have an expectation that that person can also create social media content for, like, put up, like, add, captions to Instagram reels. That's just not going to happen. If somebody says when you're going through the vetting process that they can do both of those, you really better test them and vet them, because I personally have not seen that, right? They might be average or below average and be able to do some of those different skills and combine them together, but they're not going to be an expert. When you're looking at pricing strategy or guest communication or listing optimization, it's just like investing into properties. You have to be at that top level. If you buy average and do the same thing everybody else is doing, it's not going to benefit you.
Yes, 1,000%. I just posted
So,
by in the event.
Kenny, I want to be 100% transparent with everybody that's watching this. And this has been a problem for both you and I. You have over 20 VAs. I don't have that many, but I've been using VAs since, 2016. It started with VA Sumo back in the day. And you and I, and just like everybody else, have had our fair share of struggles with those generalist VAs. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that the skill set is what you should be hiring. And in full transparency, I want all of you to know that Kenny and I have taken this into our own hands because we like to problem solve. And we actually launched a service to where we have trained VAs. Kenny has trained them on pricing strategies. My partner Scott is training 2 VAs right now in Market My STR, for the marketing side. So these are STR VAs is going to allow you to go in and pay a significantly less per VA to get that specialist, to get that expert in each one of those skills. You want to elaborate on that, Kenny?
Yeah. So basically, what I have found is that, going back to the whole like VAs who are skilled, I have made, and this is the biggest issue with hiring when we hire incorrectly. When I see new people hire incorrectly, is they look for someone that's like a jack of all trades, who can come in and maybe they have a little bit of experience, maybe they've even worked for Airbnb before, but that doesn't necessarily mean they know how to adjust your pricing, or they know how to do social media, or whatever the skill is that you want them to do for your market or your property. They have to learn. They have to understand it. And it's almost like teaching someone over again. So imagine like talking to somebody who knows more than you about a subject, and they're just like, send me your property Tell me a little bit about your market and your competitors, and then I've got it. Like that feeling of relief off your shoulders. So we started doing this. In this program, it's not like we've got 100 VAs behind the scenes. These are vetted people that we've worked with for a while on our own properties to make sure that they know what they're doing and they have the skills and abilities to do this. So we launched that program to help out hosts with 5 properties or less, so they can get access to an affordable, skilled assassin VA. I like saying that for some reason.
The assassin. It should be, STR assassin VAs.
Yeah. I mean, like when the guys I'm working with, these VAs guys, I mean, it's like this is what they do every day. Like the pricing, I'll use the pricing one, for example. I mean, that's all they live and breathe is pricing, and they know how to, they speak English well, they have other skills and abilities, but they are so good at the pricing analysis. And that's what they do. They watch trainings, they study the markets, they do all this stuff. And that's the thing. A normal VA can't do all of that. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle, because they see maybe their VA underperform and they underestimate the time and investment they have to go and teach their VA. So
here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you an analogy real quick, and then Kenny, I'm going to let you dive into your training and presentation.
Okay.
If you're an investor, and obviously you guys here are investing into short-term rentals or real estate of some kind, imagine that it's February of 2024 and you've bought 2 properties, a $500,000 property and a $900,000 property, by using Kenny's property finder service. And he found you these great properties and you're cash flowing and you just made $125,000 net income. Are you going to go down to the strip center 3 blocks away from your house and walk into H&R Block and get tax advice from them on Augusta rule and home office and cost segregation studies? Or are you going to, I'm being dead fucking serious. Or are you going to reach out to Ryan Bakey, or somebody that specializes in this to get the service, right, Kenny?
Right.
If I need data analysis done, I'm coming to you. And that's what I want everybody to understand. That's if you want to get the most out of your VAs and create scale. If you want social media content, if you want, pricing strategy, and you want listing optimization, hire all 3 of them individual and let them excel in each one of those skills, as opposed to hiring the generalist to come in. It's exactly why I built a super team, right? I mean, there's no influencer in this industry that can do what that super team can, myself included. It doesn't exist. They are not the expert in those individual skills. And this is how you build massive businesses, by getting the best at each one of these skills that does not fit into your genius zone that you're going to handle.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't believe you're freaking laughing at me there.
No,
you like the H&R Block analogy.
Block,
I just pulled that one out of the brain right here. I mean, that was off the top. That was off the cuff. Should be a comedian.
It was funny. I enjoyed it. I think people enjoyed it. Anyway.
All right, let's dive in.
Someone said, I need a VA that's also an HVAC guy.
That's also what?
An HVAC. I need a VA that is also an HVAC guy.
Who is that? All I see is Facebook user. I want to know who said
right?
that.
And someone else wants 100 VAs. Well, can't help you there. And VA HVAC guy. That's interesting. That's exactly opposite of what we're talking about with like one specific skill, but it's okay. So cool. All right. Are you ready for me to dive into it?
Yes, I was ready 4 minutes ago.
Okay. Can I share my screen? Or I'm sharing it. You need to show it.
Boom.
Did you mention this is only for people who have less than 5 properties? So real quick. So guys, if you're catching up, we're launching a small service. This isn't something that's going to be, this big business that we're building. It's small. It's just to help people out. We've got access to some really good VAs. Let's share them. Let's help people out. And this is mainly for hosts who have 5 properties or less. If you have more than 5 properties, you're like, why are you picking on us? The reason why is because the service doesn't really make sense for you, and you need to go and learn how to hire your own VAs. Fiscally, it makes more sense to do it that way. And I'm going to show you in a second how to do that. So this presentation isn't all strictly like, oh, go to our site. This is how you hire and source and create SOPs for the VAs. And then this is what we're doing as well.
The reality is strvas.com has room for like 10 clients. We're not here to pitch it to you. We're here, if you want to take advantage of that, do it. But here's the deal. This is very, very similar to the understanding of a property, in my opinion. That's how you build a portfolio, Kenny, right? You want unique skills, you want unique properties. You
Yep.
need somebody that stands out. If it's like building a baseball team. And I'm not a big baseball fan, but the pitcher doesn't, sub in for somebody and play shortstop. And, there's a big deal when, Cal Ripken was not really a third baseman, but he played some third base, but you never saw the dude put on the catcher's gear. So we're talking about specialists in each one of the businesses. And when you look at what happens with specialists is they excel because they're focusing on one thing. So you look at Dennis Eckersley, one of the greatest relief pitchers of all time. The guy doesn't come in and pitch 5 innings. He's like 3 pitches to 50 pitches, get 3 outs, done, win the game. That's what we're talking about here. And it's because the generalists on the VAs just don't produce the results. And you can get 3 for 1. If you hire the skills, you can get 3 for 1. And that's something that's super important. But we just don't have enough, Kenny. It's kind of like BK Hot Picks when we did what you do for Property Finder through STR Insights.
Yeah.
Don't sign up for Property Finder with Kenny if you want to see 50 properties a week and then pick. He's going to deliver you exactly what you want, and he's going to deliver you something that's going to be profitable. It's not going to be just delivering something to deliver something. And that's what happens when we go and we look for VAs on our own is we look at the description that they have put up there. We don't test them. We don't have SOPs. And then we ended up getting poor results because we're making uneducated decisions. And that's our goal here is to educate you. Bill, yeah. Who's Dennis Eckersley? Come on, man. 1988 World Series, Kirk Gibson, 2 broken legs, home run off Dennis Eckersley. Game 1, Dodgers win the World Series. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Anyway, all right. Yeah. Okay, cool, guys. So let's talk about it. Once again, going back, I mean, like we're saying, VAs are super, super beneficial. A lot of people are scared of hiring VAs because they don't want to hire poorly. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to hire someone who's going to ghost them. I've kind of seen it all. And the reality is most people mess it up. And the reason why is because they don't have a system of hiring correctly. So it's all about doing the prep work of understanding how to hire the right VA in order to make sure that you get the right VA and you hire and onboard the right VA and they understand what they need to do to be successful. But there's a ton of benefits from it. So obviously VAs are very affordable. They manage tasks that you forget to do. So like pricing updates. I mean, honestly, very few of you, and you can put it in the comments and brag if you actually do this, but how many of you actually every single week, at least once a week, update your pricing? How many people do that? I know all these cool pricing strategies, but I personally forget to do it for my own properties. And I know we don't do it, especially in peak season when we're completely booked. It's like, well, I don't need to worry about the future, but we should be worrying about the future because that's when we make our money. So they manage tasks and on a consistent basis for us and help us get ahead. So it's so important to get somebody like that because they can actually maximize our revenue. I shared this example with a group. So there's the solar eclipse next year in it's coming over like Texas and Tennessee up through so I live in Western New York, so it's right over Buffalo. I didn't know that. I'm not paying attention to that. I just knew, oh yeah, sometime next year. And the dates, it's a specific date and it happens to be on a weekend. Well, my VA went in, he found that date and he upped the prices to like some stupid number and it got booked. For a 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, I am booked and I'm making for 2 nights, I'm making $3,000. If I just set it and forget it in Price Labs is what I use because I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm not doing my research. I'm not spending the time on that because I have 4 businesses that I run, including my short-term rentals. I would have probably gotten booked at like I probably would have made maybe $800 if that. So the fact that the VA was able to catch it and do that paid for himself times like 5. So just that one weekend. That's so important that's why VAs are super there because they allow us to automate our short-term rental business, which we know is not a passive income. We have to have somebody managing it. And then they also have different skill sets and abilities to bring to the table and complement your skill sets. Mr. Faith.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were hopping in here to say something. Okay.
I was having a coughing attack, so I'm
Oh, gotcha. All right, cool.
coughing
So
very
we
loud. I
talked
do
about
want to let everybody know, thank you for being here. Apologize for the technical difficulties. If you're joining late because you just got our email, we will be sending out the replay first thing in the morning. So that way you can do it. And then I'll try to convince Kenny to do another live broadcast. So that way we can go over from the beginning again.
Yep. I like getting on my calendar. It's nuts. So we talked about this earlier, so I'm only going to touch on it for a brief moment. But guys, everybody has something they're good at. You might not be the best at it, quote unquote, but you could be. It's something you're good at. It could be guest communications. It could be data and analytics. It could be marketing. It could be social media. You're good at something, and it's really important you know what you're good at. And we call this your genius zone. So when I talk about a genius zone, there's actually like 3 other zones that you look at. So the only 2 I'm really going to focus on are the genius zone and zone of incompetence. So we're really good at like 1 or 2 things, and we're like really terrible probably at a few things. And then we're okay at a few other things. So for example, let me give you an example. I am very, very good at data analytics, evaluating properties, analyzing markets. That's my thing. Everybody kind of knows that. Cool. Zone of excellence. Hey, I'm a super host. All right. So I'm good at like decent at hospitality. I'm not the best, and I'll be the first one to admit that, but I'm pretty good at it. Zone of competence. I'm good at like managing my pricing and understanding like, pictures and doing my listing description, things like that. I use ChatGPT. I'm not that great at it, but I know how to do it better than, a heavy, I wouldn't say a heavy majority, but a good amount of people, but I'm not the best or even like that great, but I'm decent. And then zone of incompetence. Man, I cannot design a short-term rental worth a damn, and I cannot do social media. Like I hate social media posts, and if anybody like is in my groups or gets my emails, it's usually blocked in paragraphs, and that's just like how I think and how I put it out. I know I need to break it out better, make it more easy to read, but like that's not my skill. That's not my thing. And so I recognize that. And so what I do is I hire people who can help me in my different businesses do this. So this isn't just VAs. This is just life and running a business in general, is complementing people who can or finding people who can complement your genius zone. So not other people in your genius zone, but people in your zone of incompetence. Okay. So for example, with my short-term rentals, I'm not great at social media. So I have VAs post stuff on my social media for my short-term rental properties, not my Facebook group, my short-term rental properties. So that means that they're uploading the stuff. I don't know how to do it, and I'm letting them do it and manage that for me. That's what you want to hire a VA for. You don't want to hire a VA that's going to do every single thing, even in your zone of genius. You need to spend more time in your zone of genius, maximizing that, because that will help you grow the most. You will enjoy this business a lot more if you spend more time in your zone of genius, because that's what you enjoy doing, and that's your skill. So you have to hire people in order to spend more time into there, or hire services or technology. And VAs are a way to do that, but you want them to specialize in your zone of incompetence. So if you are terrible at pricing strategies, then you need a VA who's really good at pricing, the expert, the best at pricing. So you can focus on whatever else that you're good at. Maybe it's guest communication, or, the marketing or the social media, whatever that is. Okay. So here's what
Kenny, it's also the component that they forget to do, that they don't prioritize and allocate time to update their pricing.
right.
That you're not sending out emails to your guests. Whatever you're not doing that you need to do, you need to supplement that with a virtual assistant. It's the most cost-efficient way to do it.
Yes, sir. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, the assumption they make is with hiring a VA, is they want like what I call a Swiss Army knife, meaning somebody. So if we take like core competencies in short-term rentals, social media, pricing, communication, copywriting, research, they want somebody who's like kind of done it all and is like experienced in all these different things. But that is a mistake, because their skill level and their understanding of every single one of these things, their average skill level is going to be so much lower than somebody who's like a sword or a knife, like very skilled, essentially. So like you know, if we go back to the numbers, like the other one was like their highest was like a 3, but these people are like a 6, you know, out of a 6 or 6 out of a 7 in terms of skill on a few things. And they might not know anything about pricing, or they might not know anything about researching. They don't have that experience, but they're really, really good at one thing. And when you go to hire somebody, especially a VA, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a skilled individual in one particular thing, whether it's social media or copywriting or pricing or whatever that is. You want them to be good at really one thing. And you'll notice sometimes that one thing correlates. Like, to be good at social media, you have to be good at communication in English. Like, they have to be able to speak English really well. I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand. You don't need to speak English well to be good at pricing, but you need to know like you might be really good at research too. So a lot of this stuff can go hand in hand together, but they have to be skilled in one thing. And that's when I go to hire, I only look for one skill. I don't worry about everything. And that's where a lot of people mess up, because you'll end up looking all over the place and all these people will tell you they're good at everything, but in reality, you don't actually know. Okay. So obviously, like, if you hire poorly, it will be, I mean, it's not going to, you know, for short-term rentals, if you hire a bad VA, it could hurt your business a little bit. You could get bad reviews if it's guest communication or other things, and it might set you back a little bit, or maybe they don't do your pricing right or whatever that is, but it can hurt. All right. So, and it takes time. Hiring a VA is an investment. So when I hire a new VA and onboard them, I probably will invest about 20 hours into that person in the span of about 2 to 3 months, which, you know, isn't terrible, but that's still time out of all of my other businesses and all the other things that I could be doing that I have to invest into someone to teach them, to get them up to the speed where I want them to be. Now, you have to teach people how to do, you have to teach people your property, your market, what does well in your market and for your property, because nobody knows your properties like you do. And so if you hire poorly and you don't hire the right people, that will hurt you in the fact that you're wasting time and a little bit of money too. All right. Okay. So top mistakes that I see, and we're going to go through each of these in a little more detail in terms of hiring or like bringing on the right VA, onboarding the right VA. But so a lot of people, they don't, like I just mentioned before, the time commitment. So people think that I can hire a VA. I can go out and hire my own VA and do it myself, and this VA will take care of all my problems and I don't have to worry about anything. And I'm just going to kick back and hire someone and let them do it. That is the biggest mistake. The number one mistake is you have to invest in a person. This is an investment. When you hire an employee, it is investment. They have to be trained. Number two, and this ties in with number one, people don't create standard operating procedures, also known as SOPs. So meaning you don't give them tasks. I've seen this time and time again where people, especially with like only a few properties, they'll go out, get excited, hire a VA, and then they're like, how do I fill their day? Like, what do I give them to do? And you don't even know. Your VA doesn't even know. And you're just like, I don't even have enough things to do for them. And you end up like firing them because you're like, well, this isn't cost effective. Why did I do this? And the reason why is because you didn't set up the SOPs beforehand. So you have to do that. And I'm going to show you in a second how to create really like badass SOPs that will change how you start and run your VA business, or not VA business, but like, hire your VAs. The third is hiring poorly. So you hire the wrong VA. You hire the VA that tells you the story that you want to hear. I see people make this mistake all the time, and they end up getting ghosted by their VA, or the expectations aren't clearly set, which leads to number 4, and that doesn't work out. So these two go hand in hand together, but communication. So not communicating clearly with your VA, there's a process to do that, and clearly explaining the expectations. Finally, and this one I've seen more and more, especially recently, is all these people have gotten on board of this like, oh, I'm going to hire an intermediary or a middleman to find me a VA that's going to help me out. Guess what? You're going to be paying probably somewhere in the ballpark of like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And the VA is maybe getting like $500 or $600. So you're overpaying for somebody who is quote unquote proven that you don't know, that hasn't gone through your system and your processes. They're just given to you, and you're expected to like teach them or give them the SOP, the templated SOPs that you were given, but they don't understand your property or process. You still have to teach them and put the time commitment in, and you're overpaying on top of that. So that's a very common mistake because of the fear of, well, I don't want to hire wrong, right? And so if we can overcome that fear and we understand the time investment and we can set clear expectations and communication, it's super easy to hire and find a good VA. Besides a cough, did you want to add anything, Bill? Or you
Sorry. I'm trying hard not to say anything.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too, I think a lot of people, and I'm going to fly, we talked about the time commitment already. We'll talk about the SOPs, but one thing too, I want to make clear, guys, that when you hire a VA, some people, well, yeah, I'm going to pay them by the hour or whatever it is. Don't think of, I need to give them tasks to fill the hourly role. Think of the task, the importance is the task that they're doing, right? So for example, my VAs, depending on whatever their role is. So for example, pricing. Okay. My VA goes in on Mondays and Thursdays and updates my pricing. That's literally it. And then maybe in between he's researching. That's not a 40-hour week job, right? That's like maybe like a 2 to 3 hours, if that. So, but I'm paying him for 40 hours a week because the value he's bringing to my business is worth, quote unquote, I don't even care about the 40 hours. It's the task that's important. So when I'm hiring based off completing tasks rather than filling 40 hours. We have to have this little, a lot of people, they're like, well, how do you give them like 40 hours? It's nothing about 40 hours. That, like, sure, that's what like kind of the standard is for full time is 40 hours a week. But in reality, like that shouldn't matter. It's about the task you need them to complete. So if you're going to hire someone just for pricing and you only have a few properties, obviously that's kind of part-time work. So maybe you only pay like, if you're going to hire on your own, $500 or $600, or you can go to our, strvas.com. They're $300 a month because that's all. It's the task. You just need the task completed and it's worth $300 a month. That's very affordable and very doable. So that's what I want people to understand with this is like, don't think I have to fill this, I have to have them do 1,000 things to justify paying for a 40-hour work week. That's not what it's about. It's about the task. What is the ROI on the task that you're giving them? And how does that reflect in how much you're paying monthly? That's how you know if it's worth it and whether you should hire a VA too. So let's talk about SOPs.
Hold on a second, Kenny. So a lot of people that are listening to this, you and I both know that they're going to get stuck on how many hours are the VAs going to work for me? Are they full-time for me? Are they working for other people? As opposed to being task oriented. How detailed, if you're going to hire a pricing strategist, how detailed do you need to be in the hiring process to let them know, hey, I need my pricing updated 4 days a week, 3 days a week? How much of that detail needs to go into the hiring process?
I mean, that needs to be established before you even hire, right? So when you go to hire, they have those expectations in front of them. And that's one, I talked about the failure points for VAs. That's what people like don't do. And then the expectations aren't clear for the VA and people are like, well, I don't know if they're really doing a good job. And the VA doesn't know either. And it just inevitably falls apart. So it's not about the hours and the time that your VA is spending on you. It's about what they're getting done for you and the value that brings to your business.
Agreed.
All right. So we have a couple questions. I'll kind of like start answering them as we go down just to before we get into SOPs, because this will probably bring up some more questions. But so where are your VAs geographically? They're all in the Philippines. So I use onlinejobs.ph to source my VAs. I mean, do you certain country? It's Philippines. Philippines have the best. They have some of the better English accents. I have like one of my VAs, my assistant actually. He has a British accent. It's really funny. He's Filipino. He has a British accent because he has experience working with like the British consulate or whatever. They will work whatever hours you want them to. So if you pay them well enough, I should say. The VAs that if you use our site, all of our VAs, they speak English very, very well. Probably better than I do, to be honest. Maybe not the accent, but like, grammatically. So They speak well, and they will work hours that are, if I want them to work my hours, I'll tell them that. And that's part of the hiring process too. Hey, I want you to work Eastern time or Pacific time between this and this time, and they can do that. Or depending on the task, I don't need you to work my hours. You can work your hours, because there's like, the time zone difference. So you just have to explain that to them before hiring them. Keeping with pricing and revenue VA, will the VAs with your service create SOPs for the area of specialty for us? Yes, we'll kind of talk about that at the end. I guess that leads right into the SOP topic. We'll talk more about the service in a second and the SOPs, but I want to show you guys what I create and how I do it. So standard operating procedures. So standard operating procedures. The reason why we do this is to set clear expectations and objections and help our VAs know what will lead to success. So what makes them successful? So what are the things that they need to do to feel like they are being successful and that you can track them on? There's a lot of, software out there where you can make them time in and time out. You can even watch their keyboards or their screens and have people watch them for you, so you can make sure that, they're actually working on your stuff. Guys, if you give them clear SOPs and expectations and standards, you don't need any of that. You just need to set, like, this is what I want you to do on these dates. And if you don't do it, you're unsuccessful. If you do it and I'm making money, you're successful. Like, this is what I need to see. And so that's kind of like how I function everything. I don't track their time. I don't track, their computer screens. It's a waste of time to do any of that, in my opinion. And the reason why is the people who do that do not have clear SOPs. There are a few jobs where I do understand that, so keep that in mind. But for what we're doing, that's a waste of time and money. What's the average rate for VAs? It depends on the VA. If you want a full-time VA, you're probably looking at, all the way up like to $900, up to $1,000, for like a really, really, really good one.
I have one really good one, Kenny, that we've had for almost 5 years, $1,100 a month, and worth every penny. He's replaced somebody that would be a $60,000 to $70,000 a year employee, but he didn't start that way. He was good when he started. He became great after we trained him.
Right. Yeah. So my assistant, he's like $950 for a month. So yeah, great. All right. So my SOPs are going to be a little intense. They're pretty specific, but I do still want to show you guys an example, especially for the pricing one, so that you guys understand like why you need to be specific. Now, you don't need to have all 6 categories. You can maybe have 3 or 4, but it is important that you still have these. So, there's purpose, scope, deliverables, responsibilities, definitions, and materials. For the sake of time, I'm just going to skip to the example and talk about what each of these mean, besides just like these questions here that you can read on your own time. So here's my pricing SOP that I have. And this is the shortest one. Now, keep in mind, the SOPs are specific for every single property. And this is pricing. So we're getting very, like, we're scoping in, we're getting more specific here. So every single one of my properties has a specific SOP, because the definitions, i.e. the task of what they're going to do on a weekly basis, changes per property. The pricing strategy needs to change per property. How I price my properties in downtown Buffalo versus the ones in Watkins Glen and the ones in Niagara Falls are completely different. They're all different markets, and they should be priced differently. Beach markets aren't going to be the same as mountain markets. We all understand this. There's seasonality, there's occupancy, there's demand, and there's competitor analysis, a part of this. And our strategy needs to be comprised and spelled out in the SOP for each property. So what's the purpose? To maximize revenue and bookings by adjusting the pricing of unbooked dates. Scope. When do I want them to do it? Every Monday and Thursday. I also want them to identify upcoming compression events, so popular events into the future, like solar eclipses, mentioned that earlier. And then what are you delivering? You're going in my calendar, and this is what you're doing. You're updating my prices. And then responsibilities. So for prices of unbooked dates, you're going in and you're adjusting it, and this is part of the strategy. So this is my Buffalo property, one of my Buffalo properties. It's based on demand for the market and competition. Okay, so I've kind of laid this out here. My VA, my pricing VA, knows exactly what this means. That means he's looking at booking lead time and he understands that strategy, and he also understands the competitor analysis too. So you'll see that here. Okay, go into my price labs, booking lead time. We dive into that specifically. Are the dates booked? Are they not? Like, I've got it all spelled out here. And we go through this. And when I'm training my VAs on it, I'm using this. When I'm hiring my VAs, before I even train them, this is what I send them. This is what I show them. This is what you're going to be doing. They need to understand that. If they feel like they can do it, they'll go continue through the interview process. And we're going to get into the interview process in a second, because that's where that's the most important section we need to focus on in terms of hiring. It talks about applying discounts for unbooked nights and dropping prices by this when this circumstance is this. I've got minimum night stays, 2 nights, and I have it like, you know, like adjusting all these different dials and levers and things I can play with in my specific market. My Watkins Glen property, completely different, not even the same. It's a completely different strategy. Here's what you need. You need access to my dynamic pricing tools. You need access to my booking calendar. And I no longer use RankBreeze, but Price Labs has a feature in there that I use for the calendar. So I still have RankBreeze, but not for this particular strategy. So that's why there. Anyway, okay. So that's the SOPs. Do you have one VA do all your pricing for all your various types of properties? Yes, I do. Because once they learn all your different types of properties, then it's fine. I don't have 20, 30 properties. I have, well, right now I have it down to 3. So it's really not a lot to understand. What is a good method to identify compression events? And I don't mean this in an offensive way, but just Google like upcoming events in the area, like look at calendars, things like that.
That's join your local convention and visitors bureau. They'll have all the concerts, sporting events, large business, corporate events, all that type of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Okay, no offense, but it would take a lot for me to ever let a VA touch my pricing. Pricing is the most single important thing you can do as an STR owner. So going all the way back to the beginning, remember the genius zone versus the zone of incompetence. So if you feel like you're a master of pricing, then why would you let anyone like get in your zone of genius? You're not hiring someone to do that. But if you feel like that's an area you struggle with a lot of people do, then let them do it. But and then also going all the way back to how frequently do you actually update your pricing? If you're in it every single week, at least twice a week, then yeah, you don't need to hire a VA for managing your pricing. Do it on your own. But if you're not, then you can teach a VA to learn how to do pricing. It gets very mundane. This is all repeatable tasks that you can teach someone to do it. It just takes time. Remember the time investment that we have to do and the time commitment? It's for a lot of that's the number one thing people mess up on with hiring VAs. Can you comment on pricing tools, Price Labs, in the use of pricing VAs? I don't think I understand that question. Bill, do you understand that?
I think she's asking if like these are if the VAs are trained on Price Labs or
yes, or yeah, they're all. So I guess if you're asking about our VAs that we're using, and you're interested in those, yes, they're all trained in Price Labs. So we will use other pricing tools too. It's not that hard, but literally, they only do pricing, or they only do social media, or they only do competitor research. So they understand like, oh, this new software could come out and pricing, you know, these buttons are over here. It's pretty much all the same, right? So the strategies are the same. It's just applying it in a new technology or software. But once again, time commitment and teaching and understanding that. So I hope that was helpful. Okay. So what are some tasks that can be automated? So when you're thinking about hiring, if you're thinking about hiring your own VA, you're like, okay, you use pricing. I don't want to do pricing, Kenny. I want to hire a VA for something else. Great. What are some other tasks that VAs can do? Here's a list of 10. So believe it or not, these are all tasks that can be, a lot of technology can do some of this too, you know, but not everything. Like we know Price Labs, it's technology that can do pricing, but it still isn't perfect. You still have to touch it in order to maximize your revenue. It's not a perfect science. Guest communication. You know, I use Hospitable to automate it, but I still have to communicate with my guests. It's not a perfect science. Listing optimization, content creation and blog writing, social media posts, finding deals. That's a big one. If you're trying to find more and more properties, competitor analysis, creation of guidebooks, market research, reconciliation of expenses. Now, some of you are going to be like, I'm uncomfortable with this. I like that. That's fine. Remember the zones. Okay. What's your genius zone and what's your zone of incompetence, and find people who fit in that. So like finding deals and competitor analysis and market research, those are my top zones. I would not let a VA, I mean, sure, they can help me out here with compression events in my area, but they're not going to beat me with finding deals. They're going to beat me at social media though, because I suck at that. And that's fine. That's what I want to hire them on. So that's what I do. What are your limits of pricing software like Price Labs? Isn't Price Labs supposed to be solution adjusting pricing based on compression events? No, it's based.
I don't think that's a VA question.
No, that isn't. But that's also based off. It's based off historical, not necessarily future projections. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, Jeff and everybody. I mean, you have to be inside your dynamic pricing tool, Price Labs, Wheelhouse, Beyond. It doesn't matter what you use. If you are not manually adjusting your nightly minimums, if you're not manually adjusting your pricing and you're just letting it run, you're missing a tremendous amount of opportunity. And right now, as you go into the slower season, if you're coming out of peak summer season, you're probably priced too high.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I discovered that painfully at the beginning of this year. And that's when I really started bringing VAs specifically to manage my pricing and optimize that, because it had to be, I had to touch it. I had to get in it once a week and adjust prices based off demand. Demand is always fluctuating. So we need to stay with it. Let's talk about hiring. So this is where a lot of people mess up. So you need to follow a process. And if you don't have a process, you're going to hire wrong. So what does that look like? So this is it. This is the system that I cannot break. Well, I break it by not following it. So I've had some bad hires. And the reason I've had bad hires is because I did not follow this process. Bill says I've had over 20 VAs. All of my VAs, I use the same system. And the VAs I started with like 4 years ago, they're still with me today that I hired because they're good employees. And this is the system I use to hire them.
And Kenny, I mean, to be crystal clear, if your VA that's coming in to do an interview or goes through the hiring process, if they break one small rule, what's the result?
They're out.
No stories, no BS, no if this happened, my power went out, my internet, they're out.
They're out. Yep. No question.
That is one of the biggest components of the hiring process that everybody needs to understand. They are setting the tone of how they're going to operate when they work for you through the interview process.
Correct. So it's logical. It's not emotional. If you let it be emotional, VAs will tell you sad stories about their lives, their families, stuff going on. But the truth of the matter is every single one of them have some sort of story. Everybody has a story. You have a story too. Like we all have stories. We don't need to create stories when we do hiring. There's a time and place when you get to know people and truly know their stories. And that's here at the very end. But throughout this entire process, it's all logical, just simple steps. And each step is an attention to detail and seeing if they can follow instructions. That's all it is. So they'll post a lot of stuff. I don't even read anything that they say until I get to these last areas because there's so many applicants. I did a job posting the other like a month ago for a position, and I got 150 applications in like 4 days. How am I supposed to go through all that? How am I supposed to vet and know who's the right fit? Okay, it's a system and process that you use to eliminate it. Let's go through it. So number one, hire the job description. So this is the last paragraph of the massive job description I post. So you need a really, really big, like thick, long job description with all the details, probably the SOP that you're going to use broken down into just like written paragraph language. But here's the thing. That's great, but that's just to show them what the job is. The real thing to help you is to put Easter eggs, what I call Easter eggs or nuggets inside of the job description. So what I do is I tell them, if you're interested, so if this sounds like you, apply below and please add the term STRVA, or, you can put something ridiculous like pink hot rod, 35 or something like that in the subject line, like whatever you want. And so when they apply, especially in online jobs, you'll see it in the subject line. And if they don't have it, you don't look at their application. There's no point to reviewing their application if they don't have it because they didn't read it and they won't follow instructions. So that's the number one thing. So when I did the 150, that weeds out like half the people right out the bat. So I'm now down to 75. I'm only hiring for one person though. So that means 75 people put STRVA 7661 in the subject line and they saw that. Okay. Next thing, you're going to send an email to each of these people individually. So it's not going to be anything about their experience. It's not going to be customized. It's just going to be, hey, this is what the job is. It's templated. And at the bottom, you're going to put another little nugget or Easter egg. You're going to say, hey, can you attach a picture of a pink Cadillac? Okay. You're going to ask them some questions, about what their job is or what what their time availability is like and blah, blah, blah. They're going to give you boilerplate answers. You don't worry about any of that. All you're seeing is if they can follow instructions. This will weed out another like 25% to 50% of people, believe it or not, attaching a picture of a pink Cadillac or an ice cream sundae or something like that. Okay. Then you're going to send a third email. And this is where you weed out like 75% of people. So you've got the group down who've already answered some questions or following instructions. So they're serious. Now you see who's really serious by giving them an assignment. Now here's the kicker. We need to start evaluating how good they're at English. Sending them emails and asking them that is not a great way to evaluate that. What you do is you give them an assignment. Now this needs to be a brief assignment, about 10 to 15 minutes, but you need to see how they think and how they understand the situation. So I will send them a video with the assignment, me explaining the assignment to them. And so I gotta remember what this assignment was. I have a video for each and every single job posting I'm hiring. Remember, I'm focused on one task. So if it's pricing, it's going to be a pricing question. I showed them my calendar. And I just said, here's my calendar in this market. What would you do to my prices? That's literally what I did in the video. And I sent it to them, and I was able to judge who actually knew anything about pricing based off their response, who understood what I said, and then how they responded to that. So that was really, really key. And that will weed out a lot of people won't even do it. So boom, they're off the table. And now you're down to like 10 people who actually do it. And you can see how they do it and how they think and who's probably going to be a better fit. You want to break this down to about 3 to 5 candidates. And then you're going to do a Zoom interview. And this is where you do some sort of scorecard. So you say, okay, cool. And you want to keep it very, very subjective. So you say, okay, cool. How was their assignment score? Do they have a current job? So these are some other questions you want to ask them too. Are they working for other people? Is this going to be the only job? Am I going to be the only one? It doesn't matter if they work for other people. It might not matter if you're only hiring them part-time, but it could depending on your situation. What sets you apart? I asked them that question. I have an in-person call. This is after the Zoom call. What's their skill level in English, related experience. And then I literally average it out. This is all subjective, but it keeps me true to who I should hire. And then you can see like for this example, I was hiring 3 and I hired the ones in like highlighted in yellow. They're actually all still working for me now today, which is awesome. But like literally follow the scorecard and you do a Zoom interview with the list. So I had a Zoom interview with all of these VAs. Now I was hiring for 3, so I needed quite a bit, but remember, you're only doing a Zoom interview of 3 to 5 and you're just getting to know them. You've already asked them certain questions. They've already done the assignment. They're capable. You just have some questions about, see if there's a good fit, and you can just ask general questions. You don't need to worry about, do I need to like be good at, job interview questions? None of that. You don't need to worry about that at this point. It's just understanding, having that communication, see if it's a good, like the vibe is there, I guess, the way I describe it. But I don't really like the Zoom interview isn't the decision maker. It's the scorecard. So I put all the scores in, I average them out, and then I hire based on that. So, and that's how I keep it very, very subjective. Okay. We talked about communication expectations already. So I just kind of want to wrap some things up here before the end. We pay our VAs through WISE. Okay. So they're contractors. So there's no like tax implications because they're overseas. It's all like expensed because they're contractors, and it's through WISE, and you can automate payments through WISE, or it used to be called TransferWise. And people, like a lot of people don't know this for some reason, and this is why they overpay. And I'm not saying they overpay because they use some other system, but they end up saying, well, how do I pay my VAs? I don't know how to do that. So they go to an intermediary and they end up paying like $500 to $1,000 more a month because they don't know, the system and WISE. So there's a way to do it.
And I mean, if you pay via PayPal, there's additional charges too.
Yes, also PayPal is not like consistent on the automatic payments as well. So sometimes it'll miss it, and I pay them on the 15th and 30th of every month. Thank you.
WISE typically delivers in roughly 24 hours, maybe 36. PayPal could take up to 3 days.
Yep. Yep. Yes, keep it objective, not subjective. There we go. Thank you. Been a long day. Okay, so recap. We're going to focus on the business, not in the business. So remember, zones of competency, follow a process. I just want to say that, and make sure you have clear communications and SOPs. Let's answer some questions and then close out with our site, Bill.
Yeah, I agree. So, last question, and the amount that we would pay. Do we just write that down as a business expense, or do we have any issues in forms like equivalent 1099s here in the U.S.?
No.
You just put it in as a business expense. Your CPA will know how to classify that for you. This slide deck will be available not as a standalone, but here in the video, wherever you're watching this, this will be available. We will send out the broadcast tomorrow. For those of you that missed it, we apologize. We had some technical issues. All of my Facebook accounts got disconnected, but we will send access out in the morning if you caught this on the back end. Andrew and Brittany Gradle, I understand your bottleneck. I would, you have one of two decisions to make. You're either going to keep doing that task that's frustrating you. You're going to set up an automated charge inside of OwnerRez or Airbnb, or you're going to have to train your VA and trust them on how to do that. I think those are your three options. Kenny, when do you start giving access do you give to your VAs? Like, I mean, we have, like Chris as an example, we've had the same VA for over 5 years, and he still doesn't have access to like our social accounts and a bunch of stuff. So kind of what is your thought process on that? How do they earn your trust?
Well, I go through the hiring process. I mean, like I said, it's hire for a specific skill. So if I hire them for social media, I'm assuming that I'm going to be handing the keys to my social media stuff. I will test them beforehand too. It's not like, oh yeah, here you go. Even though I think you're talented, it's like, what would you do in this situation? So as I'm training them, so I'll probably do about 2 weeks of what would you do in this situation kind of thing, like update me on how you would do this and so on. And then at the end of the 2 weeks to 3 weeks, here, okay, go. I'm not going to, monitor it or check every single thing. The posts on social media though, I do have them actually send them to me beforehand, and I just thumbs up, because every now and then, I mean, even with Chat GPT, I tell them run it through Chat GPT too. I'm not afraid of Chat GPT. If it's beneficial, it works, right? So I even say, look, like sometimes something doesn't make sense, or it's not quite the right thing for my property or the market or whatever's going on, and I'll just say, yeah, fix this, and then go post it. So they have to. I get a quick email, look it over. Yep, okay, cool, post it.
Understand, if you're doing any social media and you're using a marketing agency these days, it's all being ran through Chat GPT, and it's all being done overseas. There's very rarely are people creating the content in-house anymore. So either way, you're going to have to quality control that. Can you hire for a few tasks only for your STR business if you don't have a large portfolio? You only need one property. This is, once again, this is like STR VAs is really geared right now for up to 5 properties. You can have more. But if you have 10 or 15, then you probably need to think about hiring your own directly. But look, I mean, you hire a pricing strategist, it's $300 a month. If that's not in your genius zone, there's no question, based on the training that we put them through, their experience, and some guidance from yourself, that they're probably going to make up that delta and be profitable for you. So I think you have to make that determination. But a lot of people think that these things are for larger portfolio owners, and they're not. It's really for whoever needs assistance. That's it.
Yeah. And I guess we'll kind of close out here with our program that we just launched. I do want to say, guys, we did launch strvas.com. Bill, can you let me share my screen real quick? I want to walk people through it. So we have 3 types of VAs. So this is a program where we're making it extremely affordable for people who have up to 5 properties. Any more than that, we can talk, but you really should hire your own VA. It'll be more cost effective. But this is a program where we have VAs specifically skilled and geared towards social media posting, price management, so managing your pricing in Price Labs or whatever software you're using, and then finally competitor research. You can reach out and ask questions about it, but I just want to show you guys this real quick. So the way it works, so we have VA, you can go to our site, strvas.com, but it's very, very affordable. It's literally $300 a month per skill. So instead of instead of having one VA who tries to do all three things, you have 3 independent VAs who are good at these individual skills. So someone who's good at pricing management, someone who's good at detailed, our social media management, copywriting, financial reporting, competitor analysis. You can learn more specifically what they do on the site. So I'm not going to go through it all, but I do want to show you guys some of the stuff. We do have to have an onboarding call for each and every single one of these because we have to learn about your property. The VA has to learn about that. So when you sign up, I'm going to just show you the guys this so it's pretty clear. Please don't call me or email me and this personal cell number. There we go. So this is what it looks like. If you're interested in this isn't, like I said, we don't have 100 VAs who are trained, ready to go. We have like 5. Okay. They can't handle that many properties. This is very limited. It's already halfway full. We ran a boot camp last week, halfway filled it up, which was awesome. But we might expand this slowly over time, but they have to be skilled and talented at what they do. But all you have to do, guys, if you're interested to reserve your spot, and you can ask me questions, reach out on social media or whatever, just check the box, put in your payment, reserve your time. A Calendly link will pop up for your onboarding and you'll schedule that. So that's how this works.
So Kenny, why is that top line? Why does it say $800 when it's only $300 a month?
So that's for the onboarding and then the first initial month. And then after that, it drops to $300 a month.
So the $500 is a one-time onboarding fee, and then it's $300 a month.
Correct. Yep.
Cool. So and then the next one down is 5 properties,
right,
plus a $500 onboarding. So am I paying the $300 a month and then $100 for each additional property to get to 5?
Correct. Yes.
Easy peasy.
Super easy. Sorry, don't check both those boxes. Just check one. You either have 5 or up to 3. So that's that. So
Jorge, yes, the VAs are already trained. That's the big difference between going directly to onlinejobs.ph and doing it on your own, and that whole SOP, all that type of stuff. That's why we've got to have the onboarding call, or else you would be in a very similar position if you don't have all that stuff ready to go. So we got to understand what is the best fit for your property and yourself.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into the next question there. So so on the onboarding call, we will go through your properties and we'll talk about your markets. We have to understand, even if you don't know anything about pricing, that's okay, because so I'll be on the call and the VA will be on the call and we'll teach you, but we have to understand your market. Nobody knows your market or your property like you do. Okay. Even if you don't know how to do pricing, you know your property and oh, wow, I got really, really booked during this time of the year. And we're going to look at data and insights, but that experience you can provide us, any color to help us get off the ground running. And then you have access to that VA. You can email that VA and communicate with that VA. It's not just like, oh, that we're done. You can reach out and say, hey, let's make this better or do that better. Or, hey, you're doing a great job, or you don't even talk to them at all, but they will be managing it for you. But it's your VA for $300 a month. That's like, you can't find that anywhere. So
Kenny, do we have guest communication VAs coming?
Eventually. First, we're going to focus on the Market My STR ones. So guest communication ones are maybe in a couple months.
So we have these 3: pricing and revenue management, social media management and copywriting, detailed financial reporting and competitor analysis, which I think is probably one of the most important ones, actually. And then probably 2 weeks away from Market My STR specific VAs, and then probably another 2 weeks after that, so mid to late September, potentially guest communication.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
cool.
Sorry, real quick, Brad, you have 12 apartments. That's 12 different listings. So if it's one, anyway, probably not, to answer your question. That's
Brad, you probably need to get your own dedicated VAs for that many, especially because you're in different markets and all that type of stuff. I would definitely look at sourcing your own, or you could piece them all together here, but it'd probably be more cost efficient to go down that path.
Yes.
Awesome. Great job, Kenneth. As always, if you guys have questions, we got to depart, but just leave a comment down below. Kenny and I'll try to bounce back in, answer all your questions. We'll be sending the replay links out first thing tomorrow morning. Thank you guys for being here. Those of you that jumped in late, sorry for the technical issues today, and happy hosting, everybody.
See ya.